Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Saturday morning, the 9th of November. In this video we're going back to Nova Scotia to the case of missing siblings, 6-year-old Lilly and now 5-year-old Jack Sullivan from Lansdowne Station, who were reported missing at 10:01 AM on the 2nd of May by their mother Malehya Brooks-Murray. We're also going to talk a little bit about Ashlee Buzzard, who I talked about yesterday. Overnight my time, she has been arrested. Let's talk about that. We'll talk about Ashlee Buzzard first, just briefly. I suspect, based on viewing figures of yesterday's video, that not many people who watch my channel are following this case, so I won't take up too much of your time here, but I think it's important to note, if you don't know anything about the case and you want to learn, then go back to yesterday's video where I go through the whole case. She was arrested on the felony charge of false imprisonment. False imprisoning who? We don't know. And neither do Melodee's paternal side of the family. Lisbeth, who is Melodee's aunt, told the Daily Mail she doesn't understand exactly why they arrested her for false imprisonment. And since the FBI took over the case, detectives are keeping information close to their vest. Ashlee could be the only one who knows what happened to Melodee, and she is the missing piece to this puzzle. Will she actually talk now? I suspect not, but stranger things have happened. I wanted to know if someone is hurting her or Melodee, that she is not alone in this. We want to get them help, both her and Melodee. We just want her back. So this is Ashlee. Is this one of her many wigs? Because she was pictured last week with short hair. It's interesting how she likes her wigs. Some people just do. Some people just like wearing wigs. Private investigator Bill Garcia, who was hired by Melodee's family, told the Daily Mail that officers recently seized several potential pieces of evidence from their home. This would have been the search warrant that they got on the 15th of October, so the day after it was realised that Melodee was missing. Ashlee was not home as investigators spent hours combing the house and garage into the evening, removing several items, including sections of drywall and carpeting that could prove vital to the case. They also collected a piece of concrete from the garage. The Daily Mail has reached out to Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office and the FBI for comment. Sheriff's investigators earlier this week released more information on the possible route the mother and daughter took from their Lompoc home, travelled more than 1,500 miles away to Nebraska. Detectives believe the pair then started their trip back the next day, so a 3,000-mile round trip, and she did it between October 7th and she was back home on October 10th, but without Melodee. Absolutely crazy. Could it be that she's been arrested for false imprisonment of Melodee? Do they have, let's say, footage of Ashlee manhandling Melodee? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. It just saddens me that there was so much going on at that time. We weren't able to keep in contact with Melodee and no one had a relationship with her. The system failed her by giving her back to her mother time and time again when she was unstable. How many times have we heard that story? How many times? How many times does it happen? How many more times does it need to happen before changes are made? And that goes for the care of children in my country as well as in the United States. We're going to watch developments in that case closely, but now we're going to go to Canada and the case of Lilly and Jack Sullivan. There's nothing new in the case, but these posts by someone called Heather in one of the Facebook groups I think are worth discussing. We need to remind ourselves just how shady the parents of Lilly and Jack have been. By parents, I mean the people who were living with Lilly and Jack in the primary carer role. That will be their biological mother, Malehya Brooks-Murray, and their stepdad, Daniel Martel. And I think Heather's being very fair. I'm going to read a couple of posts here. Riddle me this. Daniel has stated on several occasions that Lilly peeked her head into the room a few times that morning. Absolutely. That was the story early on. Daniel said he was awake, Malehya was asleep, baby Meadow was in their bed, also asleep, and Daniel heard Lilly. She poked her head into the room a couple of times, 2, 3, maybe more times, while Malehya was asleep. Didn't see Jack, but he heard him in the kitchen. When asked if he saw Lilly that morning in an interview with the DT show, what was his response? I heard Lilly, but because there's like a lock on the door, right, I heard the lock like rattle a lot, so she didn't peek her head in. If the door was locked, how could Lilly peek her head in? Did she have a key? How did she peek her head in? DT asked him if he would have noticed if Malehya got out of bed. His response, no, I would have been sleeping. Both Malehya and Daniel given opposing stories. Daniel was awake, according to Daniel. However, Malehya said she was the awake one. Well, we know Malehya was awake. We know she was awake at 6:17 because she used the school app to tell the school that Lilly and Jack weren't going into school that day. He said some other things that raised an eyebrow in that interview as well. I quote, the thing I still find odd to this day is that Malehya didn't look in Jack and Lily's room when we went out to look for them. Okay. Maybe because she thought you'd done it, Daniel? Because each one of them has told a different story. Daniel also said Malehya stood in the kitchen while I ran through the house looking for the kids. It's like you're trying to tell us something here, says Heather. When asked about the pink blanket, Daniel said, and I quote, I already told investigators that the blanket was not there in that tree. What this tells Heather is that Daniel was in the exact location of where the piece of blanket was found, sometime before it was discovered by Malehya's sister. I'm not sure it tells me that, but how did that blanket get there? I believe he said this to support his idea that the blanket was planted, but all it really does is show that he was in that exact spot before it was found. I suppose by saying in that tree, it implies that he knows which tree and not just a tree. Right? He's used like the definite article. I mean, how would he know that it wasn't there in that tree unless he was there first? And then there's the jacket. Malehya said they didn't put coats on. Daniel said that Jack had his dark navy jacket on, but that he couldn't reach it himself, and that no chairs were out of place. What was Daniel trying to say? There were two people in the house who could reach Jack's jacket, so if Jack couldn't reach his jacket and no chairs were out of place, who put the coat on him? I can't remember. Can somebody remind me whether the coat was found? Like they thought Jack had took his coat, but the coat was actually there, so Jack didn't have his coat on. Can somebody remind me of that? I'm going to read another post from Heather in a minute, but this is interesting. I haven't watched this. It's a crime and shame from last night. But Bossman is Brad Wong, the neighbour who heard the vehicle coming and going in the middle of the night from Daniel's property. Remember, though, that the cops have said that they've no evidence that a vehicle came and went, which is all the more reason, as I keep saying, why we need to know where the cameras are on Gerlach Road. Is it possible that you could leave in a vehicle from Daniel's property and not be caught on a camera? How far can you go without being caught on a camera? This is a screenshot from It's a Crime and Shame Live last night. It shows Bossman, who is the neighbour Brad Wong, talking about what he heard that night. But this was a new fact to me, that the loud car was not the car that made the final trip back to the property. Where did the loud car go? Truly hope RCMP have looked into this. Well, they clearly have and said there's no evidence a vehicle did anything. I meant, as he left his driveway 4 times, came back 4 times in total, last time not with loud vehicle. Curious, but mystery vehicle, we just don't know. Okay, this is another post by Heather, which is thought-provoking. Daniel has made several statements where he seems to be dropping breadcrumbs. Yet the thing with Daniel, though, he knows what he's doing. I think Daniel is way more manipulative and not as stupid. I think people haven't given him enough credit. I think Daniel, in my opinion, comes across, we know he's controlling, but he comes across as manipulative, probably a good gaslighter. I'm not saying Daniel did anything to Jack and Lily. These are just observations, from me, thousands of miles away. Throwing little hints without saying what he really wants to say. Thursday evening. Daniel states he helped his mother with a fence for several hours and that he went inside when it was just coming on dark. Then he says, I could have sworn the kids were sleeping. It says in the documents that she had them up until 9 or 10 that night, but I don't remember them being up that late. I went to bed a lot later than Malehya did. I think, Malehya was already asleep when I came to bed. And if you remember from the documents, Malehya said that Daniel had told her that he was going to clean the house for her, and when she woke up in the morning, the house had not been cleaned. Daniel states he flicked on the light a bit after midnight and both kids were asleep under the covers. He then states I never got a chance to see what they were wearing because the blankets were up over them. Right. Daniel states, this is now Friday morning, Daniel states that he got up when Malehya woke him up. So originally, he said he was the one that was awake and Malehya was asleep. He said, I think she woke me up right. We kind of woke up at the same time, but I really don't know. Initially stated it was him who woke Malehya up. He absolutely did. He states, and I quote, the craziest thing was when I woke up, it was within the first 5 seconds that she said, I don't hear them. And usually you would have to wait a couple of seconds or, 30 seconds or something like that because they could be in the fridge or, everything goes quiet when they are grabbing food or doing something right. He indicated that he told this to investigators. When asked if there was a possibility that Malehya could have gotten out of bed before he was fully awake, he says, I think she could have, but you have to remember the baby was lying on her arm as well. But is it possible? I mean, anything's possible. When talking about him and Malehya leaving the room to start looking for them, he states, the thing I find odd to this day, and I told investigators this, is that Malehya didn't look in Lily and Jack's room. So we've read that in the previous post. When we went out and walked to the kitchen. So I found that odd because we walked up the hallway to the kitchen. Maybe she thought you'd looked in the room. He also states Malehya stood in the kitchen when I was running through the house like a moron looking for the kids. Daniel states that he heard Jack in the kitchen rustling about, but then when him and Malehya made their way to the kitchen, nothing was moved. Also, remember what he said about Jack's dark navy jacket. He said that Jack was wearing it, but he couldn't have reached it. Yes, we've read that in the previous post. He states, we went outside and made our way through the fence and we were standing in front of Mum's RV and Malehya said, should I call 911? Right. That's kind of, instinctual. You want to do it right. Remember Malehya said she knew to call 911 immediately. Then he says about the school, I really don't know that Malehya was going to keep them home. She didn't have a cough. She wasn't sick. Yeah, but she did have a black eye though, didn't she? So I think you knew full well that Lily wasn't going to go to school on the Friday morning because you don't want to question about Lily's black eye. Given that Jack's black eyes have been noted by the school and it sparked CPS visits. I really wouldn't have kept them home. They were kept home a lot. Well, is that because they had a lot of injuries? Is that because Malehya and Daniel couldn't be bothered getting up, getting them ready for school? Or is it a combination of things? They were sick a lot. Yeah, they could have been sick a lot. Some kids just are. I'm trying to look at this from every angle. This is Heather now. So I can't admit the possibility. Is Daniel protecting Malehya? I don't think he's protecting Malehya. I think he's trying to implicate Malehya, but in a subtle way. That's what I think Daniel does. I think he tries to control the situation. He tries to bring out little things, little nuggets, little breadcrumbs, but it's all to benefit him. He's not protecting anybody, except perhaps himself. But listen, don't come for me in the comments, those of you who think Daniel is completely innocent, because I've no idea what happened to Jack and Lily. And I've got just as many questions about Malehya as I do about Daniel. So there's that. But it just happens that we've heard a lot more from Daniel because he does like to talk. And therefore, we've got more to discuss and more inconsistencies from Daniel because he's his own worst enemy. But keep talking, Daniel. All right. Let me know your thoughts about both cases in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Hello! Good girl! Good girl. Good girl. Okay.